love Africa Global Radio.
Okay, time now for headlines across Africa.
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 Well, today we're going to Mauritania, Western Sahara, and South Sudan. So we're starting from Mauritania, where we're reading from the Lake Halami newspaper.
Okay.
And the headline says, Gender equality as a necessary condition to boost growth.
Okay.
While its economic growth stalled in 2020 due to the coronavirus pandemic, Mauritania could increase its wealth by 19% if it relied more on women's economic potential by promoting gender equality and human capital. Well, accelerating economic recovery by focusing on the potential of women is a report that actually revealed the health crisis that was caused by the COVID-19 pandemic and how it has led to a significant decline in growth from 5.9% in 2019 to negative 1.5% in 2020. And this situation has, however, particularly affected urban workers in the service sector and households. And one thing that happened is the emergency financial support that came from donors and then improved the terms of trade eased the current account and budget pressures that were on Mauritania. And you have Mauritania's public debt to GDP ratio is remained stable at 73.5%, but the risk of the debt over indebtedness remains high. Now, to support economic recovery and rebuild a more sustainable and equitable economy, the government is encouraged to use existing physical space to support growth-friendly spending while ensuring the sustainability of public debt. This was said by the head of World Bank operations in Mauritania. The increase in extractive activity, in particular with the start of gas production at the Greater Tortue Ahmeyim offshore field (GTA) in 2023, and the gradual recovery of the non-extractive sector should allow a gradual return to economic growth. However, these forecasts are subject to many risks and uncertainties which related to the COVID-19 outbreak, the climate shocks, and the delay in structural reforms and insecurity happening in the Sahel region. But he also notes that if Mauritania actually invests in women more, they could be able to make a 19% income, more like an improvement on what they're currently having. So I think it's a good thing. It's a good advice if they take it into consideration. I think it's good. It's going to work for them. Well, yeah.
All right.
Well, we're moving on to South Sudan. We're reading from the Sudan Tribune, and the headline says Museveni orders closure of schools as COVID-19 cases surge. Uganda's President Yoweri Museveni has ordered the closure of schools and suspension of religious gatherings in the wake of the surge in cases of coronavirus. Addressing the nation on the COVID-19 situation on Sunday, Museveni said there is need to control rates at which the virus is spreading in the country. All schools and institutions of higher learning should close for 42 days, effective 8 a.m. of 7th June 2021, which is today.
Okay.
And he also said schools have become an epicenter for the virus, thus they need to close them to avoid continuous spread of the pandemic. There's also the increased number of clusters of infections in school. When the children were in villages, they didn't really hear of the infections. But now that they opened schools, they've become the new centers of infections. He also noted that a total of 948 cases have been reported in 43 schools in 22 districts, with Kampala, Gulu, Masaka, and Oyam districts constituting 61% of the reported cases in schools and higher institutions. So because of the need to stop the trend, he's closing all the schools and institutions of higher learning down for a period of 42 days until further notice.
All right.
And before the teachers will go back, they must all get vaccinated.
Good one.
Now, all religious institutions, including churches and mosques, should suspend the activities that bring together gatherings for a period of 42 days as government is monitoring the situation.
Okay.
Well, there's a story coming from the Sudan Tribune in South Sudan. And finally, we're moving on to Western Sahara, where we're reading from the Sahara Press Service.
All right.
And the headline says, Spain must lead decolonization process in Western Sahara.
Wow. Okay.
Well, president of the Sahrawi body against Moroccan occupation, ISACOM, Aminatu Haida, noted an upsurge of violations by the Moroccan occupation against Sahrawi people since the resumption of the armed struggle last November, saying that Spain must not only assume its responsibility towards the Sahrawi people, but also lead the decolonization process in Western Sahara. In an interview to the Spanish daily El Publico, Haida recalled the enduring violations and torture to which they were subjected members of ISACOM like Sahrawi activists Sultana Kaya and Mina Abba Ali. Many other activists were victims of acts of torture, harassment and violence, including Lancen Dalil, who has Spanish nationality. Regarding the crisis between Morocco and Spain, the Sahrawi human rights activist said that Morocco's practices are not new to the Sahrawi people, as Rabat has always adopted the blackmail policy against Spanish authorities. In addition, Haida welcomed the bold position of President Ibrahim Ghali after his voluntary appearance before the Spanish court, recalling that this position mirrors the commitment of the Sahrawi activists and people to the values of justice and rights. She further warned against the dangerous situation in the occupied regions of Western Sahara, especially after resumption of the armed struggle, stressing the need to protect Sahrawi civilians from Moroccan attacks. And that's all we have from the Sahara Press Service in Western Sahara.
Okay. Right. That's all
Yeah.
for the headlines. Okay, I thought we had one more. All right.
Enjoy the video. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share.